come and share tonight what the Lord has placed on his heart to us, to encourage us, to let us know that God will never fail us. Amen. And this man is close to me. He's very close to me and my family. And if I need something as his pastor, it ain't nothing but a word. Y'all heard that statement? It ain't nothing but a word. Ain't nothing but a word. And he's a friend. He's a friend to this ministry, and he's a friend to me personally. And the person I'm talking about is none other than Elder George Runnels. Sir, would you come at this time, please? Amen. Come on, give him some love. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, Pastor didn't tell y'all today, but he had a little minor accident. And show you how God worked, I was only 2 blocks away when it happened. So he was on his way to meet me, and we was going to have a little lunch, because that's what we do from time to time.
Amen.
But then when he called me, I came running. And when I pulled up, the truck was, that truck was in bad shape. But he was all right. Thank you, Jesus. And that's some of the things I'm going to talk about tonight. Going through it, but coming out all right. Going through the smoke, going through the fire, but coming out not smelling like fire. See, I'm going to go back and talk a little about my upbringing. I grew up, like Pastor said Sunday, poor. P-O. I grew up in a little area on the northeast side called Settegast. Most of y'all might not know where that's at, but it's off of Wayside. If you ever been to Lakewood Church, you got to go through Settegast to get to Lakewood Church. Old Lakewood, yeah. But anyway, I grew up in that neighborhood, and we had shale streets. Didn't even have concrete street, no sidewalk, had ditches. Big old deep ditch in the middle of Wayside. Now it's called Settegast Road. But anyway, I grew up as a boy and went to school out there. And finally, when I was in the 7th grade, they said, we're going to start sending y'all across town. We're going to integrate. See, most of y'all don't know nothing about that, because when y'all come along, it was already done. But see, I was part of that. So for the first year of school, we didn't even go to school. They was protesting integration. So I went to what they call church school. That's where every day we showed up at a church and we had school. You know, we sang and done everything you do at school. So I went through a year of that, and finally they got it all settled. So they bused us all the way from Wayside to Mesa Drive. I went to Kirby Miller School, my first school. So anyway, I went through, and man, I was aggressive. I played football. I always made good grades, always. Went on to Smiley High School, made good grades. I graduated number 11 out of 356 people. And it wasn't because, you know, I can't say it because I was smart. It's just because I worked hard at it, which I have done all my life. We're going to talk a little bit about where I went from there. So the computer science teacher, I took computer science, she said, whoever make the highest grade in my class, I'm going to get you a job. So here I were. I made like a 99 in the lady class. So I'm thinking, that's not going to happen. We graduated. We moving on. I'm in college, going to University of Houston. So she called me up and she said, hey, do you want a job, Miss Sims? I said, yeah, I'd like to have a job. So she said, there's a place called Region 4. Anybody that's in education know about Region 4. That's where they teach the teachers and do we've done a report cards for the teachers and scheduling. So they sent me over there, and of course I look around, and I'm just the only one. only black at Region 4. But it didn't matter because I stood out. I could hold my own. My mama had taught me what to do. I could hold my own. My mom was a maid just like Miss Brenda's mom was. She was a maid. But a maid didn't mean that you didn't understand what was going on in the world. See, my mom used to go all the way out to the River Oaks. She worked for the people that owned President and First Lady. It used to be called something else back in the it was bad as later on, but maybe it was President and First. That's who she worked for. So she took us to work. I didn't even know I was poor until I went to work with her one day. And the lady told me and my brother, said, hey, I want you to come out here and wash our windows. So all that night we was counting, man, we got 10 windows in our house because we lived in a shotgun shack. Anybody know what a shotgun shack is? That means you shoot a gun through the front door, it go out the back door. It's a shotgun shack. But we lived in a shotgun shack, so we counted 10 windows we got. So we got to the lady house that day, and I told my brother, we're going to make $10 because she was going to give us $1 window. Mind you, my mama only made $35 a week. She ironed, she kept the kids, she cooked, she cleaned the house, she even watered the yard. You hear me? So anyway, we went out there and we counted the windows. The lady had 37 windows. And I'm like, 37, we're going to make more in one day than my mom made a week. So anyway, we was washing windows, and I told my brother, look here, come here. I can show you how poor we are. Because she had a dog, and we peeping through the window, and he had a fur coat on. That's when you know you poor. That the dog, it's hot outside, but they got the temperature 60 degrees, and the dog had a fur coat on sitting on the bed just looking at us. So anyway, that's the story about my mom. But anyway, I went to Region 4. I worked a couple of years, and I was trying to work my way through college. Because back then, you kids, y'all blessed. The babies, the mom and daddy said, hey, come on, you can go to college. My daddy said, you can go to college, but you need to find a way to pay for it. So I worked full time and went to college at night. So a friend of mine finally told me one day, he said, hey, man, it can't be that hard. He said, I just got in the fire department. I'm a firefighter. And I know a lot of people dream about being a firefighter. I never dreamed about being a firefighter. That's a dangerous job. So I said, well, I'll try. So I went down there and applied, and the man told me, he said, hey, I took the little test. I made tops on the test. He said, let me tell you, if you don't come in here and you don't make the top on all these tests, he said, you got to do 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, 50 pull-ups, and you got to run a mile in so many minutes. So I show up the next day, boy, and I'm straight out of playing football and all that stuff, so I'm ready. So he said, okay, you got 30 seconds to do your sit-up. And I get down there, and I'm doing them so fast and so good, the man finally had to tell me, hey, that's enough. All right, flip over and do push-ups. I ain't look like this, Chris. I ain't look like this. Happened after I retired. So anyway, so I did set up, then I did the push-ups, I did the max, I did the pull-ups, did the max. And then he said, okay, we're going to clock, me and another guy, we're going to clock y'all running. He said, you got 15 minutes to do a mile and a half. And shoot, man, he okay, go. And the other guy, he took off jogging. I took off sprinting. I ain't no different. I took off sprinting. So the man, he got in his car, he's trying to keep up with me. And he said he finally got to the finish line, and he said, here you come crossing the line. I was just pulling up. So he hit the clock. He said, man, you ran it in 6 minutes, a mile and a half. He said, nobody ever done that before. But guess what? I was hungry. And see, what I'm going to tell you about Red 9 Life, reason I come standing in that aisle every Wednesday, and I'm here every Sunday. The only time you don't see me, I'm out of town traveling. But I'm here all the time. And the reason why is because I'm hungry. See what I'm saying? I want to know about the Word of God. I can't wait till Miss Brenda starts. She said, we're going to start this Bible study. I want the Bible study to start. A lot of y'all might be here because y'all thought it was going to start tonight. And I'm glad y'all here because that's one of the things I want to talk about. Faithful, being faithful, being faithful. That's the most people I've seen all of 2016 on a Wednesday night. But it's no reason the chair shouldn't be filled from the beginning to the end with people because of faithfulness. Because God is faithful to us. So anyway, I got in the fire department, and man, I was determined. So I went through fire school, and I graduated #1 in my class. It was 60 people in the class, and I graduated #1. So they said, you can go to any station you want to go to. So at the time, my parents were living in Settegast. I said, I know all the streets. I don't even have to learn them. So that's why I told her I wanted to go. It was in Settegast. I worked at Station 43 in Settegast. So life went on like normal. Station 43, I got in there and started fighting fires. And when I eventually got me a nice apartment over on this side of town, northwest side, so I went to a station 62, that's over off by Northwest Mile. That's when Northwest Mile was up and going. But let me tell you about the fire department. Fire department is the hardest job you could ever have. I'm talking about every day you go to that job, you this close to dying. And I didn't realize it until I left there and I made, it was 3 guys studying for promotion at the station I was at. They were studying for the next promotion. So I had only been in 2 years. You had to be in 2 years and 6 months before you could make the next promotion. So the guy, he was the captain of the station. He came to me, he said, man, you wasting your time. And I said, I'm wasting my time. He said, yeah. He said, you don't have the time in to make it. And I was like, well, something might happen. And then he turned around and he said, and the other thing is, you're too stupid to make it. He told me that. You're too stupid to make it. So I asked the guy, I said, hey, man, can I borrow your book? I didn't even buy the books because I didn't have the time. So I'm studying, man, I'm reading, and my best way of studying is to write everything down. So I had notes like that on every book. So behold, they came out with a bulletin a week before the test. The test been delayed until further notice. But God. But God. So anyway, I had all this studying behind me, so I kept on. And they finally announced the test. 2 days after I was eligible, they had the test. So anyway, the guy still didn't think he think I wasn't smart enough to make it. So anyway, we went down there to take the test, me and the other 3 guys. So we came out of the test, and the way it worked, you had your test score plus how many years you've been in, you get the points. So the most I could make was 102. But the guys I was with, they had been in 8, 9 years, 10 years, some 10 years. They get 110, 19, 18, 102 was the best I could make. So I went in there, we took the test, and we came out, and I was the last one out. I'm wondering, why is the guy leaving? Maybe I'm that dumb, I don't know the stuff. Anyway, they got up, and they left out, and they was all waiting on me. And I came out, gave the lady my paper, she graded. And I thought, well, I guess I did okay. I made a 96 on the written. She gave me 2 points. I made a 98. So got over to the guy and said, what you make? I said, well, with my 2 points, I made a 98. And they just put their head down. They were just ashamed. And the guy said, well, man, I made a 78. This guy made an 84. This guy made a 92. So they knew we had to go back to the station the next day, and the captain was going to ask, what y'all make? So went back to the station the next day. We told him. And then he called them a bunch of dummies. He said, y'all some dummies. Let that dude beat you. So anyway, 2, 3 weeks later, they made 25. I came out number 37. They made 25. They made another 10, 35. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of like they froze the list. They just sit on it for a while. I'm like, what's going on? Maybe they're not going to make me. And, of course, I always prayed about everything. And because in the fire department, you got to pray. I mean, it's such a dangerous job, you got to pray. I'm going to tell y'all some stories about how many times I almost lost my life. Miss Tanya, she worked for the fire department, working for them for years. I remember she was the fire chief secretary. Miss Tanya Presley, she was. But anyway, so they finally called me down there. Said, hey, you're going to get promoted. So they called me down there, told me to go take my physical. I took my physical. So the assistant fire chief down there at the time, R. Harrison. You know him, Miss Tanya? R. Harrison. Anyway, he said, send that boy in here. I didn't care. I was getting a badge. I didn't care. So when I walked in the room, he threw the badge at me. I caught it in midair. I didn't care. And he said, normally they let you decide what stations you want to go to when you get promoted. So he said, well, you ain't got no decision where you going. You going to 46ers. I said, 46, where is that at? I mean, I don't know where that's at. He said, that's out on Scott and Carter. That's out there in South Parks. I lived off of Perry Road in 1960. He said, you going to Scott and Carter. I ain't care. 33 miles one way. So I took off out there, and I had been in the fire department like 4 years at the time. I made a few fires over at the station but when you got out there, we made fires. No, not every day. We made 8 to 10 fires every day. South Park. See, in the city of Houston, most of y'all might not know, but the city of Houston, they make 900 calls a day. You hear me? 900 calls a day. And probably 300 of them are working fires, where they make house fires, trash fires, whatever. But anyway, so they sent me out there, and first day I got there, they said, hey, you're going to be riding cabin today. I think they was testing me. They said, you're going to be riding cabin today. I said, man, I ain't been in but 4 years. That's all right. You're going to be riding cabin. 6:30, 7 o'clock, house fire. They gave us a location around the corner. So, of course, I get off the thing. I grab the line because the captain is the first one in the fire. A lot of people think the firefighters are, but the captain, the first one, firefighters behind him. So I grab the line. I run in there, and we got a house on fire. And the house is so solid, it's built out of cinder blocks. So I hit the fire with my hose, and man, that steam came back on me. Got burned. So got back to the station, they laughing at me. They said, man, you got to get down low. You got to crawl in them fires. And them guys, younger than me, because I was 25 at the time, some of them 19 and 20 years younger than me, but they've been out there in what they call the hole for a long time. They knew how to fight fire, so they taught me. So those three things that I'm going to talk about tonight is power is number one. Say power. Power. Power means the ability or right to control people or things. You got to have power. To be in charge, to be responsible, to be a pastor, to be an elder, to be a deacon, you got to have power. That's something God gave us, power. We got power. You got to have power. The second word is fear or lack of. Everybody said fear. I had lack of, no fear. And the third word I want to talk about is healing, because I'll tell you later on how I was healed by the grace of God. But anyway, so they taught me how to fight fire. So here all of a sudden I had power because I could control. I could tell them what to do. After I'd been there 2 or 3 months, I'd tell them what to do. No fear. I had guys following me. I'm jumping. I'm talking about we pulled up to a house and fire coming out of every door and every window. And you would think somebody would just stand there and shoot the water from the street. I would jump through the window to go put the fire out. No fear. No fear at all. And them 3 words, power, fear, and healing, I'm going to tell you at the end of this what it equals to. What power, you put together power, which I found out from my sisters. We were just having a class, SLDI. I always had power. But they told me that's one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit, power. We had class. Didn't we have class last month? We was talking about power. They said, Brother George, that's one of the gifts. Speaking in tongues is a gift, but power is a gift. I always had power. I always could control men. Before Brother Boyd took over the men ministry, I was over the men here. I was over 15 men at the fire station. Them men would follow me anywhere because I had the power, see? And fear, a lack of fear, it can be good or it can be bad. The lack of fear can get people in trouble. See what I'm saying? I had the lack of fear, but I had enough power to know when to not do and when to do. I had guys following me that had fear, but they was following me because I had no fear. So they right there behind me, don't realize, man, this could get you in trouble. I know Pastor was talking a couple of weeks ago about him thinking one time about ending his life. At that time in my life, I didn't care. My Pagan wasn't even born yet. Pagan wasn't even a baby. I think I was recently married to Pagan's mom, and but it's like, I'm not saying I didn't have nothing to live for, but it didn't matter to me because I had felt like I had a good life. Then nothing like this life I got now because, man, I got a real good life now. But at 30 years old, I already was on my second home, had a new car. I could just about do anything I want to. I mean, life was good. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It was just, I say it was God, but, you know, I'm closer to God now than I ever been. Because Pastor tell you, when I first come to this church, I had gave up on church. Never gave up on God. But I said I would never go to church again because of some of y'all might have went through it too, some of the things that happen in church sometimes that cause you to move away from church. I know there's people out there that shaking their head that understand what I'm talking about. I was at one of the biggest churches in Houston, and I was a member, and I was working on one of the boards, working with the youth and stuff, and some things was happening in that church that wasn't right. So eventually I said, you know what, God? I know you want me to go to church. I know you said I should be in church, but the church ain't right. There's some things going in church ain't right. But the day I came here and met Pastor Kenny and Miss Brenda, first service I came to in 1999, they was in the hotel. And the reason I came is because I got a big brother that was, he always never wanted to go to church. And he told me, hey, man, we got to hurry up and get through. I got to be to church tonight. And I looked at him like, church? You going to church? I got to go see this church. So I came, I think it was Pastor them started in March. May, it was beginning of May. I went to church with him. And that Sunday, I saw it. I said, I gotta join. So that was 17 years ago. I've been here at Anointed Faith. But anyway, back to the fire department story. Okay, I stayed at 46s for a couple of years, and they finally said, okay, you've been here long enough, it's time, you got to go to paramedic school. Everybody that's new firefighters got to go to paramedic school. And let me tell you, I've seen everything in the fire department. You can't surprise me with nothing. I delivered 26 babies when I was a paramedic. 26 babies. I had people die in my hands. I had babies die in my arms. I seen it all. But anyway, they said, okay, you got to go to paramedic school. So I went to paramedic school for like 8-9 months. Very hard. Anybody that's a nurse will know how hard nursing school is. Well, all you got to do is take 2 more classes and you can be a paramedic. I mean, you can be a nurse after going through paramedic school. So I became a paramedic. So they came to me again. They said, okay, you can choose what station you want to go to. You're a paramedic. I said, well, I want to get close to home. So the closest station in the city right then was 67. That's over in Acres Home. That's on Little York, right down from Wheatley. And so I said, I want to go to 67. Mistake. I went to 67. there, paramedic. I'm talking about we working 24-hour shifts. In 24 hours, we're making 22, 23 calls. Come back from one call, you push the button. They had a button to go back in service. Push the button. Ambulance 67, we got a shooting. Ambulance 67 got an automobile accident because they made 45, they made 610, they made all the acres home, so it's one thing after another. But I endured it. I stayed there 2 years. And finally, they came up with another promotion exam. Wow, it's time for promotion again. And they said, man, you want to be a captain? At the time, I was scared. I had fear. I mean, still at the time, I was only in like 6 or 7 years, and now I'm going back. I went from being a paramedic, I'm going back to fighting fire again. So they started studying. I'm talking about, I don't know about you people in college. Y'all don't know nothing about studying. Y'all don't know nothing about studying because I studied 14 hours a day. I would literally lock myself in a room, close the door, and lock myself in a room, and I would only come out, get breakfast, go back in there and study. Get lunch, go back there and study. Get dinner, go back in there and study. And I studied 14 hours a day for like 3 months. Finally came up the captain's exam, and I made captain. I only had been in like 8, 9 years. And the first black captain to ever be, you think Acres Homes, an all-black neighborhood, they would have black officers, but I was the first black captain to make captain in Acres Home. I was the first black, I made captain. I stayed at the same station, which was a mistake. Because, all of a sudden, you just one of the guys, and all of a sudden they make captain, and all of a sudden now you supervising the same guys you've been buddies with, So they all, I ain't doing nothing, he said. I caught what guy saying one day. I walked in the room, I said, hey man, I need y'all to go out there and wash the truck, make sure you pull out everything out of the compartment, clean it. So I walked out the door, and I just happened to turn around and come back, and man, I ain't studying him. I ain't doing nothing. He said he think he's something because he a captain. So anyway, I went to my chief of my district, and I told him, I said, hey, chief, I said, I need to transfer. He said, why you need to transfer? I said, I can't supervise these guys. And although I had power, I could have supervised them. Because they were my friends, I'm trying to take it light on. So he said, well, you know what? I was going to ask you today. I got a position at my station, and I want you're the best captain in my district. I want you to come to my station. And I'm like, wow. So I went to 31 that's in Studewood. That's over off Yale and 43rd, Studewood. Y'all know where Studewood is? Down from Northland Mall. So I'm working by all them malls. Matter of fact, when Northland Mall had to cave in where it killed a bunch of people, I was the first unit to make that. Well, anyway, I left Acres Home, went to Studewood. I'm thinking, well, this is going to be better. It's going to be better. Shoot. Every year that I was there 17 years, but every year I was there, we was in the top 5 for the busiest fire stations in the city of Houston. Every year. I mean, because they make the Heights, which is kind of a good area, but they still make Acres Homes. They make Studewood. They make Northline. They make North Main all over there. So we was busy. So just to tell you some of the stuff that happened, we was on a 3-story building. And, man, I'm talking about when you make a fire, it's so dark, you can't even see your hand in front of your face. So it's me and 2 of my guys, and we walking. We're on the 3rd floor. And we easing in this building because we could feel the fire. It's fire. We could see the fire, but we don't know where we're at. So I'm walking, and all of a sudden, I hear on the radio, engine 31. Engine 31. And I stop, and I turn around. Return to the command post. So I turn around, and I walk back to the command post. And we still stepping because it's so dark. We get back out the front. He said, the owner just said that 3rd floor is cut out. it only goes so far, and then there's a drop all the way to the first floor. So anyway, we get in there, we put the fire out, and everything good. So then I got to go up there and research. So I go back on the third floor, and I see my smoke and stuff. I see my feet scuffing, and I see right here where I stopped, there's a drop off. One more step. One more step. But God. But God. So anyway, that's one of the times that I thought I was going to die and live. So then I think I might have told Pastor this story. I don't know if y'all remember one time in Acres Home, they had 2 babies that got trapped in a house on Eldridge. So we heading down West Montgomery, and I could see from 43rd, man, it's heavy smoke. And they come on the radio and they said, be advised, there's 2 babies trapped in the house. So we get there, and man, it's fire coming out of every one. It's smoke, heavy black smoke coming out of every one. So they like, ain't no way you can go in there. Ain't no way you can go in there. Man, I jumped through the window. I was intending on bringing that helmet that I burnt completely up on my head, burnt my coat off my body, burnt my pants off. I burned everything that I was wearing off. So I jumped through the window, and I got in there, and at the time, Pagan was born. Pagan was a baby. She was only like maybe 6 or 7 months old. So I got in there, and I see a sign of them babies. They laying on the couch, and they hugging each other. 2 babies. So I grab one in each arm, and I come out of there, and as soon as I hit the front door, I just started getting wet. Man, the guy that was standing there with the hose, he said, man, you was on fire. When I came there, my helmet was on fire, my coat was on fire, my pants was on fire. Of course, both of them babies, they died. It was bad. So for 6 or 7 months after that, I would have dreams at night. That every night that I got them babies in my arm, and all I could see on them babies is Pagan's face. There go Pagan over here. So it bothered me for a long time. And at that time, I don't know if they do it now, but at the time they didn't have go see no psychiatrist or none of that. They just, you go back to work. Go back to work. So anyway, went on, and I made 17 years in the fire department. Now, I was 17 years a captain. So then it was 2006. So now, I came in 77. 2006, I got 29 years in the fire department. I mean, they went by fast. I got 29 years in the fire department. So they finally decided, okay, I was considered what they call an old head in the fire department. So he said, Captain, you don't have to be at this busy station no more. You can go somewhere else. So I moved to a station down on 43rd and T.C. Jester, station 13, what I moved to. So 2006, March the 13th, 2006, I was on a fire, and I lift up. See, fire department, they got all that gear on, which is like 100 pounds. And then when the hose get full of water, it's like 100 pounds. So you toting all that stuff. So I punctured my stomach. And, right now, I'm 50 years old. And they said, you got to have surgery. You got to have a hernia surgery. So I went in to get the hernia done. Never been in no surgery, never been in the hospital in my life. I'm 50 years old. So I went in and got the hernia repaired. Everything was good. Went back to work in 6 weeks. So we made a car fire, which is something minor. I mean, that's minor. I mean, car fire. And people say, well, car can explode on you full of gas. That ain't true. That stuff that be on TV, that don't happen. The most thing that ever could happen is the tire going to explode. And them firemen don't even flinch when them tires explode. That's just one of the things. So we on a car fire. All of a sudden, I go down. I fall. I'm like, what's going on? So I get back up. got my boots on and stuff, and then I'm limping. And get back to the station, the guy said, man, I think you broke your ankle, because my ankle was swole at the time. And I said, oh, man, I'd be all right. But my wife was an emergency room nurse at Memorial Northwest Hospital right there, 16 and Ella. Well, that's the same district. So they said, well, let's at least go take you on the fire truck to see your wife, and maybe she can tell you what's wrong. So we went up there, and she had a doctor look at me, and he said, man, you broke your ankle. I'm like, broke my ankle? What you mean I broke my ankle? I mean, I've been I got 29 years in the fire department. I've been in fires everywhere. Ankle? Broke my ankle. Anyway, he said, yeah, you broke your ankle. So they sent me home. And a couple of days later, after the swelling went down, they told me, go get it cast. They put a cast on it. I went to the orthopedic surgeon. He put a cast on it. Everything was good. Went 6 weeks on crutches. Pastor, remember, I used to sit right there. They turned that seat around right there, and I put my leg. See, guess what? I still wasn't missing those services. Came here on crutches. So went on. 6 weeks later, they took the cast off. And I'm looking at my ankle, and there's a round ball, looked like a golf ball on the side of my ankle. You know how sometimes you get a cast and your arm or ankle, whatever, it reduce in size. So when my leg reduced in size, I could see the perfectly round circle. So I asked the guy that took the cast off, I said, what's that? He said, man, I don't know. So I said, well, there's got to be an answer to it. So I said, well, I made an appointment with a bone surgeon. I said, maybe it's in the bone. So he looked at it and he said, well, is it bothering you? I said, no. He said, well, don't worry about it. I said, no, it wasn't there. God didn't put that there. So I said, you got to do something about it. He said, well, okay. He said, this was like several months later. He said, okay, we're going to move that mask. We're going to take that mask off. And I had surgery on the 28th of August. I went in and had surgery, and they cut it out. And stayed off for 2 or 3 weeks, and they said, hey, come back you need to come back and see the doctor. So my wife was with me this time. Went back to see the doctor, and she asked the doctor, she said, well, y'all took it out. Well, did y'all test it? I didn't think about that myself. I said, test it for what? Ain't no baby. Mind you, I was bold and I was strong and I thought I was Hercules. I didn't think nothing gonna hurt me. So he said, nah, but we will. So 9/15, me and her went back to get the results of our biopsy. Yeah, they tested it and they said, you got cancer. Just nonchalant, you got cancer. Like, I got cancer? He said, you got in my ankle? Yeah. So the guy felt so bad that did the surgery that he didn't test it. He said, okay, I'm going to make an appointment for you to go out to MD Anderson because they see this every day. So I got to go out to MD Anderson on the 19th of September, 10 days, 11 days for my birthday. I was going to be 51. So he go out there and they tested. They said, yeah, you got cancer. I said, well, what can be done about it now? I mean, they took it out. He said, well, you still got to have radiation because all of the tendons that's from that deal is still growing up in your leg. I had an MRI, had all that stuff done. And he said, you got to have radiation. So you talking about hard to do. I had to do 25 rounds of radiation. And radiation, it ain't like you can do it a day and take off a week. You got to do it every day. So I drove from, at the time, we were living at Perry Road. No, we live in Jones Road. Jones Road and Steeplechase area. And I drove all the way from there every day. I drove myself every day because my wife was still working. I drove every day to MD Anderson. Take about 2 minutes. You can go. Drive all the way home. Next day I come back. You can go. Because radiation, they can only give you a light dosage of it at a time. They can't radiate it long. So it was like maybe a minute. I drive all the way out there, take 30, 40 minutes to get out there, 30, 40 minutes to get back. But I was still Superman. Some days I went down to radiate, go to the fire station, work 20 more hours. Go to the next day. Did that for 25 rounds. So finally I met with the doctor, the surgeon. He said, after you do the radiation, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to do surgery. So one day before Thanksgiving, I never forget, man, I went in there to meet Dr. Cannon. Dr. Cannon had been doing surgery for 2 years, young doctor. And the first thing he told me the day before Thanksgiving, he said, hey, I think we ought to just amputate. And just nonchalant, like it wasn't no big deal. I think we ought to just amputate. I think I come back and told you about that. I think we ought to just amputate. And I immediately told him, I think we need to get a second opinion. So anyway, he said, well, after the Thanksgiving holiday, you can come back, and we got another doctor that does the same thing I do. You can talk to him. So went on to Thanksgiving, ruined my Thanksgiving, because I don't think that's all I can think about. He said, man, they do some great things with artificial legs. I said, I'm a firefighter. He said, they can do some great. I said, you can't be no firefighter with artificial legs. So anyway, go on my Thanksgiving break. I come back, and they set up an appointment with a guy named Dr. Oaks. Dr. Oaks, man, you talking about a man of God, a doctor that believes in God, a doctor that said God is the last authority on everything. Because what he tells me, he said, look here, that young boy don't know no better, because Dr. Oaks, he 50-something years old. This guy is 30-something years old. He said he only done 3 or 4 of these surgeries. He said, I've done thousands of them. He said, before I cut your leg off, I promise you I would do 10 surgeries. Make me that promise. I would do 10 surgeries. So anyway, guess what tomorrow is? Tomorrow is the 5th of January. January 5th, 2007, I had surgery 10 years ago. So see, Pastor asked me to talk about this today. 10 years ago tomorrow, I had surgery. 10 years ago. So they explained it to me. They said, we're going to go in there and we're gonna cut all the tendons and all that. And then we got to go up in your leg and take tendons and tissues, and we're going to reconstruct your ankle and your foot. He said, the surgery going to take about 6 to 8 hours. So my wife and Pagan, they go down there and they wait in the waiting room. They said 10 hours passed, 12 hours passed, 15 hours passed. And they finally said, we got to ask somebody what's going on, because my wife at the time, being a nurse and seeing and witness all that stuff, she said she figured they decided just to amputate. So she said Dr. Oaks finally came out. He said it was a success. It was more there than we thought it was. So we had to do more intensive cutting and everything. They reconstructed my ankle. All I remember him coming to the recovery room and had a hole right there where that happened and had my toes sticking out. And he said, all I want to know is, can you wiggle your toes? And I wiggled my toes, and he screamed and hollered like, it's a success. He can wiggle his toes. But this what he said, the only thing you might not ever be able to do is walk upstairs. Walk upstairs. That's what he said. And then on top of that, he said, you always going to walk with a limp. He said, you always going to walk with a limp. But anyway, I said to him, and he understood because he was a man of God. I said, but God got the final decision on that. So what I'm basically telling y'all tonight is, don't ever give up. And people wonder why, that man every Wednesday, he's standing right there, ushering people in. On Sundays, he's standing somewhere, ushering people in. Anytime the door's open, he's here. Miss Brenda, tell you I'm here. Pastor, tell you I'm here. And I try to be the first one here. On Wednesdays, I know Brother David, he working. Sometimes Carl, he working. They can't be the first one here. Guess what? It's my responsibility as a believer. My responsibility will have power in healing to be the first one here, to get things ready. When Pastor called me saying, I had an accident, can you come? It's my responsibility to come. See what I'm saying? It's no one else's responsibility. You can get in that role, but right now, that's my role. Leonard's responsibility to watch over Pastor. But guess who had that role before Leonard? That was my role. I've been here 17 years with Pastor. I don't have a role. Look, everybody got a gift. We talk about that in SLDI 101. You need to be there. Everybody have a gift. My gift is serving. See what I'm saying? My gift is serving. It don't end there. So they tell me finally, I'm thinking every month, man, I'm going to go back to work next month. I'm going back to work. Nobody ever told me I was never going back to work. I kept thinking. It come all the way to August. I had the surgery in January. Laid in the bed on my back for 6 months, couldn't even move. Finally, the doctor said, it might be 8-9 months before you can even walk. Well, on the 7th month, I walked in his office. And I asked him the question, when would I be able to return to work? He said, well, I'll tell you the next time you come. Next time I came in August, he said, sir, you're never going to be able to return to work. He handed me the paperwork, said, you're fully disabled. You'll never be able to return to work. So I said, nah, I'm going to fight that. Went and got me an attorney. I went down to the attorney office. Man, I went down to the attorney office, and he just started laughing. He put out an old school blackboard. He slid it out. It was on rollers. He put down, okay, how much longer you going to work? You got 30 years. Because I've been on so long, I went from 29 to 30 years. You got 30 years in the fire department. How much longer you going to work? I said, well, I want to do 35. So he said, well, how much you going to make a month in 35 years? He wrote it down. How much you going to make now with disability? He wrote it down. And the disability number is bigger than the number working 5 more years. So he said, well, which one makes sense to you? And I left his office that day, and I said, which direction to the pension office to retire? Well, I went down there, and I put in my retirement paper. And they said, well, okay, we gotta vote on it. It's 8 men on the committee. We got to vote on it. We're going to decide if we're going to give you a disability. So the day that they was voting on it, I show up down there, man. I'm trying to limp like I'm still hurt, Because now I want that disability. So I'm limping, got a walking stick, So I go in there to the meeting, and they talking about my situation. They're looking at all my paperwork. They're looking at all my x-rays. And I'm telling you, that day, Pastor, I cried. Because every one of them guys was guys I worked for and worked with that stood up and said, this is the best firefighter I know. See, in the fire department, my nickname was Firewalker and Deep. We made a fire one time. I came back from the fire, and the next day the guy had took my helmet, and he had engraved Deep on it. And they made a T-shirt, and they still wear the same shirt today at the station, 31. Deep in the heat. That's the shirt they wear. So the guy, they started one after another, and they started testifying. Man, this guy is the best fireman I know. This guy here, if he could come back to work, he would. So it was when they voted, nobody voted against me not retiring. They all voted full disability. So like I said, after they sorted out, my last day working was December the 28th, 2006. And my surgery day was January the 5th, 2007. that's the last day I worked. So I retired. And I asked myself at 51 years old, man, why God? Why? I wasn't ready. How we know it ain't about me? At the time, we was right in the middle of ministry doing stuff. Pastor needed me to ride with him every day to go to the hospitals. Pastor needed me to be his right-hand man. How we know God had something else for me to do? He had something else for me to do. So when that happened, I was retired. Guess what? I was available every day. Me and Pastor, Ms. Brenner said, where y'all going today? We were solving all the world problems. Me and Pastor, we get together and we ride all day long. We go here, go see this, because Pastor said, man, I like George. He know every hospital is. He know how to get everywhere. So I come get it. Miss Sharon, her husband was down there. Guess what, Brother George? You used to be a paramedic. Can you come sit with my husband? Yeah. So I did that for a couple of years. I go sit, Miss Sharon called and said, Brother George, I ain't been to the doctor in a couple of years. Can you come sit with my husband? Yeah. I go sit with her husband. I sit there and talk to him. He ain't talk back, but I talk to him. I know he heard everything I said. I talked to him. Me and Leonard, remember the time we took your husband to the doctor? Me and Leonard loaded up, took her to the doctor. Miss Sharon never seen 290. She's like, when they put this freeway here? So we took her down to Kim Sean downtown to get some Chinese food. She never been there before. She was just like, I ain't never seen this before. So anyway, God, what I'm trying to tell y'all is God has a purpose for you. See what I'm saying? God has a purpose for you. Every time you think that that's the end, God has something else for you to do. See what I'm saying? Don't you think that God, look here, I used to be, man, Pastor tell you, long time ago, I used to do everything. I cut the yard. They need chairs out. I put chairs out. Whatever it took. I used to get out there and cut this whole property by myself. Pastor wanted to take pressure on me so bad, he would have bought me one of them zero-turn lawnmowers. Ain't that right, Pastor? And I used to cut all the property. And finally one day he said, hey, you don't have to do that no more. We can hire somebody to do that. So move me on out. But that's all right. God has something for you to do. Don't ever think God don't have something for you to do. So anyway, let's get back to power, fear, healing. You hear what I said? God gave me the power over men. God gave me the fear or lack of. Lack of fear. I wasn't fearful of nothing. I walk in a burning building. I made shoots where I got my hand. This guy got shot. The guy asked me one night, I was in a club over there by North Line Mall, and I'm working on a guy that got shot. And the guy asked me, somebody from behind me said, well, is he dead? And I said, no, I think he's going to make it. And he leaned over my shoulder and pow! And I looked at him, and he said, he dead now. But God, stuff like that, God, he fixed it. He protected me, no fear. And healing, because my body was healed. Do y'all believe in healing? You believe in healing? Because I'm a living witness that God will heal you. And he won't heal you where you got a limp or where you can't go upstairs. He heal you all the way. He don't have to. He make you whole. Look in the definition of healing: to restore to health, a soundness, to cure, to repair. God didn't put me halfway together. God put me together all the way. I drive a 42-foot RV all over the country with this leg that had cancer in it. Sometimes I drive for 1,000 miles. Brandon will tell you, he's been in a back riding. While the old man up there driving, I drove 1,000 miles before in an RV. We've been all the way to Florida several times. We've been to Colorado, just enjoying life, because God has something better for you to do. I'm thinking this old leg that had cancer in it, I wouldn't be able to do all this stuff. So I never went back to work. So I started doing ministry with pastor, and people have said, well, the devil was still chasing you. But no, he wasn't. It was stuff that God was allowing. Man, the devil ain't got nothing to do with my life. The devil don't control nothing having to do with my life. God allowed things to happen. So on Mother's Day 2009, Pastor tell you, going down Spring Cypress, heading to a friend's house on Mother's Day. A guy coming 100 miles an hour, rear ended me. They said I should have been dead. But God, you can't control what happens to me. God got control over this. So I survived that. They took me to the emergency room, couldn't find nothing. Move on. August the 28th, 2015, minding my own business, going down the road, and a lady jumped the Esplanade going 65 miles an hour and hit me head on. Pinned me in the car, pinned this anchor, the good anchor, underneath the dash. They both good, though. I don't know, it could have been either one of them. But anyway, pinned this anchor, and they had to come cut me out. And just so happened, I just happened to have a fire department hat on that day. And the guy said, you a firefighter? I said, a retired firefighter. So all that minute, they just gave me extra tender care, rushed me to the hospital. Pastor came there too. Man, look here. This right here is just telling you, this pastor here, he always there. Because every time I've been hurt, he been there. So why wouldn't you think when he called me today, I didn't come running? Because he came running with it. Him and Miss Brenda, they came running. When I was over there at a hospital off of Jones Road, Pastor was the first one there. Are you okay? I was on crutches, I broke this ankle, fractured this ankle, and it still hurts sometimes, but I'm okay. So let me tell you the formula, this formula, what it adds to.